All right. I'm always confused as to what it's recording when I do it this way. So it'll probably end up just being me. Hey guys, we're going to talk about foreclosures today. You guys remember Pee-wee's Playhouse? Anybody old enough for that? Janine, you're old enough.
Yes, I do. Remember?
You're old enough. Just being honest, sorry. So the word of the day is foreclosure. Let's talk about foreclosures. What do you know? What do you want? What do you not know?
So
What do you think you know?
I can start this.
Okay.
I don't know exactly how, like at what point is it a foreclosure? In other words, like, cause I see these like, I guess at what point can we actually do business with it?
Well, here's the thing. Primarily for the sake of keeping us sane, that looks good, and keeping our clients realistic, I want to deal with foreclosures that are in MLS.
Yeah.
Not pre-foreclosure on Zillow, not something on an auction website. We're dealing with MLS listed properties, what I want to primarily focus on and talk about. So if it's in MLS as a foreclosure, that means the bank has taken ownership of the property. They foreclosed on the loan. The property is theirs. The title is in their name.
Also known as an REO, or a real estate owned.
Yeah, which is got to be one of the worst acronyms ever. But okay, I think the military took them all, so they didn't have any choices left. So, what questions about the process? The process with foreclosures, honestly, usually they're pretty straightforward. It's usually better than dealing with a seller because they know what they need to get to break even, or they know what they need for their bottom line.
So is the price that it's listed at always that bottom line, or?
Not always, but it's probably pretty close to it.
Can you assume that there's no room for negotiation on price of the foreclosure?
I usually do assume that because usually multiple people get involved, which makes a moot point anyways.
Right.
But I mean, it's always in the comps. So start with the comps. Usually the comps are going to go ahead and tell you.
So something else that I was doing some research trying to help these clients that I have, and something that I did was I took all the VA foreclosures in the area in the last 6 months, and I pulled them all up, all the closed ones up, just to get like an average of what people were paying over, or what the closing prices were.
Sales price to list price. It's a great idea.
It was about like 10 to 11% over.
Or any under?
Average. Yeah, there were some under.
Somewhere.
That's a great statistic to use to help set people's expectations. And just sidebar real quick, if you look at a neighborhood and everything is selling in less than a week, you can do the same thing with your clients. Be like, look, things move fast here. Here's the sales price to list price average of these comps. It's 102%. What does that tell you about where your offer needs to be? Same principle.
Yeah, and then the thing is about it, the reason why I did it was because they were trying to make an offer on a VA foreclosure at the price, and I was trying to tell them like, okay, we had already lost one because they came in too low. So I ran that to show them like, hey, if you're not going to come, with something for real, then get it.
And we all know that sometimes you have to say that and then let it happen. And then when you say it again, if they don't get it, it's like, what are we doing?
Right.
But sometimes people are never going to trust you or listen to you until it happens to them once, unfortunately.
Well, they pulled back on it, so.
Good.
What was the average days on market? Did you look at?
No, so that's a weird thing. For those of you who haven't dealt with this yet, it's like that's like the thing that I didn't know about, Doug, was like, so they really don't have like a time frame when you submit an offer. It's like they just keep taking offers until they like one.
Oh.
And they don't tell you like, hey, we're not taking your offer, or it just keeps
VA?
going.
Is that VA owned?
Yeah,
Is
so-
there a VA loan that your people are using?
No,
Probably
it's
can't use
it's a
VA
VA.
loans.
Wondering.
Well, it's not that you can't. It's a VA owned.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, the way it works, for those of you who don't know, is they hire these companies to represent them for their foreclosures, and then these agents then get the offer. They type it in this format and then send it to this what do they call him? I don't know. He's like a manager of some type of the VA, and says, yes, we like this one. And then they send the official offer back in their format for them to sign. So it's weird.
What loan program are your people using?
Gosh.
Oh, okay.
Usually it's cash.
So have you heard anything back yet, Nate?
No, to be honest with you, I was kind of confused because I sent after we submitted the first offer to the first one, it was like, didn't hear anything. So I, sent the text to the agent, and she was like, yeah, we have one with up with the guy right now, but she didn't say if it was like accepted. She just said it's up for review. So they don't tell you. It's just,
They don't give you time frames?
what's that?
They don't give you time frames, like they're not in any hurry, apparently.
Well, it's not that it's weird. It's not the agent either. It's the adjuster guy or whatever.
Right.
Or the guy who makes the final decision with the VA. And he, they just keep taking offers until they basically, the offers start tailing off, and they're like, okay, it looks like this is the best one we're getting, so we're going to stick with that.
Now, I can tell you that I've dealt with foreclosures several times, but I've never done a VA foreclosure, so I'm not familiar with that process. In my experience with the other foreclosures that I've done, it's just been you send in the offer, they look at it, they either counter or accept it or deny it, and it's a relatively quick turnaround, a day or two usually. Big thing to, know, and this might be obvious, but a couple of things aren't going to be doable. They're not going to accept contingent offers. They're probably not going to accept like a VA or a USDA because of problems with inspections, because they're not going to do repairs because they're going to be as is for the most part.
Well, it's the fact that they don't have to, because they're gonna, more times than not, they're gonna have a cash buyer that's gonna tell them like, hey, we'll close in 2 weeks. So why would they take, any other?
Well, I've bought 3 foreclosures and I've never paid cash, I promise you.
Yeah.
So
That was your first deal.
I admit personally, but yeah, I've helped clients do it too.
First
Our
deal.
house, when we moved to Washington, D.C., we lived in a foreclosure. That was the first one. And now this one in the beach house, all foreclosures. And they were all pretty straightforward. This house was a short sale before it went to foreclosure. And that's another conversation. That's when the owner is still the owner. The bank hasn't foreclosed on the loan yet. So everybody sees the writing on the wall. They're trying to short sell it because they don't have enough money to pay their bills, and basically they're selling it for short of what they owe on it, typically. Now, the short sales were more prevalent because people got underwater
Yeah.
back in the late 20 single digits.
08, 09.
People pay $300,000 for homes, and then 2 years later they're worth $250,000. And people were taking out equity loans because money was cheap and easy to get. And banks were just like, you want a loan? Come on down. Here's some money.
Log up here, you can have a loan.
Right. So I'm not seeing as many short sales lately. Now they're still out there. But short sale is a terrible process because this is what happens. A seller gets with an agent and they list the house and they come up with a price and they're like, okay, we'll sell it for that. I'm happy to accept that, right? You put it out there and you get an offer, and the seller's like, yep, that's great, I'll take it. Sounds good. Then it has to go to the bank to review. And 3 months later, typically how long it takes, the bank will say, actually, we don't accept that. And then you're like, okay. So either you start over or you've wasted 3 months.
Yeah, right.
If you see a short sale, you should run away. Unless they're not going to buy anything else, and it's really just about that specific property. Because it can be a huge waste of time and effort.
And to make that worse is in North Carolina, for example, it's not a judicial state. So they don't have to go through the courts for foreclosure. So foreclosure process is continuing at the same time as the short sale process is going. So you could be in a situation where you're giving an offer, right? And the client is trying to sell their home, but because they've defaulted on it already, foreclosure or pre-foreclosure technically begins once you're late on your mortgage. That's why, like, when you see all those Zillow things that say pre-foreclosure, a lot of cases that just means somebody is late on their mortgage, and they can get that information based on credit reports and a bunch of other data that's out there. So you could be doing a short sale, but at the same time the foreclosure process is happening, and if you don't get the short sale done fast enough and they go into foreclosure, everything you did goes out the window anyways. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
And it's literally the lender is fighting with itself to make that process happen, because you have what's known as servicers, and then you also have the lender itself, which can be two different people or it can be the same person.
And I know sometimes we get frustrated with other agents and sellers because it takes them a long time to respond. Your offer is literally nothing than a piece of paper on some reviewer's desk somewhere, and they will get to it when they get to it. And I promise they do not work outside of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And if you think repairs aren't going to happen on a foreclosure, they're absolutely not happening in a short sale, because people don't have any money anyways. So there's no repairs, there's no adjusting the price. And short sales, sometimes foreclosures, home is fine. Short sales are usually a worse situation, to be honest with you. So just a word for the wise regarding those two and kind of dealing with them. Did anybody have any questions? Felicia, thanks for jumping on. Anything in particular you wanted to talk about regarding foreclosures or short sales, just to make sure we didn't miss it or that you got the info?
No, when a client sends me a short sale, I'm like, it's anything but short, so run.
Right. It's the opposite of short. You know what? Why it's short, and then explain it to them.
So should we not be putting those in our e-alerts and stuff?
I mean, you can.
They're good for investors that have time and it's not in a rush.
Right.
Yeah.
Or people that can pay cash. And here's the thing, Flex MLS doesn't allow foreclosures and short sales to be picked out through the IDX websites. So if you're going to build a search like that for your clients down there, you have to do it through Flex and send it that way. Either send it directly to them or send it to you and then you forward it. Up here, luckily, we can differentiate that way and build a foreclosure and short sale search, because it's in our criteria. But if you guys set it up, I don't think you're going to get any results down there. At least that was the case when we first started this. I know they had talked about changing it, but I don't think they've implemented it yet.
Hey, Doug, this might be you might know this answer. So is there a way for us to search for deed in lieu by any chance? And because that leads into the whole foreclosure thing. I didn't know if that's a searchable parameter up here in any simple way.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, deed in lieu, for everybody, in case nobody knows what that is, that just is a friendly foreclosure where the people go ahead and they're unable to make their mortgage payment for whatever reason. And instead of doing a short sale, the bank and them essentially agree to exchange, sometimes with money, And at other times, the people just go ahead, they give the keys to the bank, they sign what is known as a deed in lieu, and that's it. And then the bank has it. Those are typically friendly foreclosures, and usually the house is in really good condition. I don't know if there's a simple way to search for that up here, though.
The way
I think if it's an MLS, it's just going to be a REO.
Right, but I mean, I know, for example, in Florida, we used to have ways to query through like the Register of Deeds system to find deed in lieu documents, and I don't know if that was possible, because if you find that, you know it's going to be coming to an REO property, and you know that it's going to be in good condition because they never do deed in lieus if it's like damaged or anything.
That could be like something on a county site somewhere, which might be how that pre-foreclosure crap info gets in Zillow. I don't know. Any other questions about foreclosures or short sales or anything?
I mean, I guess just on the investment side, because I am interested in working with investors only because I see it as being like potentially lucrative. If you have someone that actually does it and is successful at it, and they, you know, keep turning it over, and then you're doing the sell side of the home and then rolling it into, what is that tax form or whatever? The
1031.
Yeah, 1031, and then they're rolling in another one, so you just keep going with them. But my question would be like, are there any strategies to find, I guess, foreclosures besides the MLS? I know you said that originally, and I agree with that, Doug, for, you know, our regular clients. But if we're working specifically with an investor, is there another way to do that other than MLS? Because literally, when I was talking with one of the agents on one of these, she said a lot of them were just like coming from people seeing the trespassing sign on the door. So I don't know if people are, is that like they register who's got the trespassing things with the sheriff? Or?
I mean, it could be. Here's the thing with that. If it's something that's happening outside of MLS, you're not going to get paid for it.
Touche.
Or you
True.
can put an offer in when it pops up.
Yeah, but I mean, if they don't have somebody representing them, then you got to deal with that too. You know, it just depends on what the whole back setup. Like, you know, for example, I get your point to a degree, because for our house, it was a short sale, and then they pulled it off the market. But then I came back by and there was a notice of foreclosure on the window before it went back in MLS. So I knew something was about to happen. So I called the bank and got the bank info, which wasn't really helpful, but at least I knew it was coming. I was waiting for it to pop back in MLS.
Well, now the agent did tell me something else too, and I forgot about this. So she said that there's like a holding period, and they can take offers during that. It's where basically they hire the agent to, you know, represent them, and then she has to, or they have to put, type up the MLS sheet, and then they send it to the, you know, whoever the approver guy is. And during that time, they called it the holding period. She was saying they were taking offers then. So I don't know. I mean,
I think
I'll research it more.
without just like searching endless county websites or just running around looking for stuff in Windows would be to set up a withdrawn or coming soon search in your MLS that's designated as a foreclosure or a short sale, assuming that they're probably still going to be entered into the system before they actually go live.
Okay.
For a quick and dirty answer. Or you can search for foreclosures on Zillow and call every agent, and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about." I've also seen agents up here, not down there, but it's because I've just done more up here. And my brother and another agent have seen it too, and we talked about it, was agents entering properties in Zillow, which you can do, and they don't have to come directly from MLS, that aren't actually for sale, to try and generate leads.
How does that even work?
Oh, that's clever.
It's
That's
a good
sneaky.
real estate jail for that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, that's how I understand what you're talking about there, because I've seen that before, where you can go and you can see a house, but it's not actually for sale. and they've got a listing for it, but there's no MLS number and you can't find it. Like now that I'm licensed, I can go back and try to find it. And you'll see that on a lot of those Facebook groups that are out there, like the Wake County one. I don't know if you've seen that or not, Doug, but like agents post houses, and some of them are real listings and other ones are not. It's just a way for them to get you to call them.
And I've called and spoken with someone, and I'm like, is this house for sale? Can I go see it? And they're like, absolutely. And I'm like, really? Because I'm an agent and I'm in MLS and I don't see it there. Where is it?
Right.
So you got to watch out for that.
What do they say?
They're like, well, let me get you to call the listing agent. So
They decided to
the biggest thing with all these is they can really easily become a big waste of time really quickly. So just make sure that you're being very diligent in your approach and what you're doing. That's all. That's all. The biggest thing with working with investors is working with realistic ones, because you've got a lot of people who have been to some seminar or some BS like that. You know, these free things where the HGT people come through town and tell you how to flip and flop or whatever. And so now all of a sudden everybody's this is their side hustle. And in a market like the Triangle, Charles, you know how long you look for investment properties. Finding a needle in a haystack it ain't close to how difficult it is.
It's literally impossible.
And then you've got 100 other people looking to do the exact same thing, and everybody's like, I want a deal. And I'm already tired of telling regular buyers they're not getting a deal. They're lucky to get a house. And then you've got somebody whose expectations are way more askew than that, because here's why. If it doesn't work out, they haven't lost anything. They don't need somewhere to live.
Yeah.
That's
literally like,
you know, not spending your time in the best way, or you could. So just make sure if you're going to work with people like that, you're very much on the same page about what the expectations are. And if you go through it a few times and it's still not clicking, just be like, hey, look, just kind of have to have a little come to Jesus. That's all.
question, when it comes to with investors, how, or does anybody here, I know some investors, they ask for like the cap rate or like the recapitalization reports and such different things to show like what's their profitability on a house. Do we have a system for that, or are they typically using their own? I've dealt with some that ask me, they're like, hey, this whatever multifamily unit, what's going to be my return on this? And I'm like, we'd have to look it up. So I don't know, is that something that we typically do? If we do we have a program for it, or is there some calculator to punch in, or is it
What
something
I've been doing,
investors do?
I have something that a past client has shared with me that I'm happy to share with the group that you guys can look at. But absolutely do not be giving them estimates or trying to figure out what their return is going to be or anything like that. Because then you're just setting yourself up to be in a, well, you said this situation in a year or two. You know what I mean?
all I've done, Charles, is forwarded, like my investor that wants a beach house. I called the list agent. I said, hey, can you get me the rental docs on this property? And then I forward that to him and let him do whatever he wants with that and figure things out.
Something to do. Yes. And what you can do is you can run rental comps and send them market information about what similar things are renting for, Charles, up here, because they're not going to be vacation rentals. Everybody else down there, you'll need to talk with a property manager to help you with that if you're trying to get them some guidance on that.
Yeah, because I just got an email back from him saying, I looked at these documents and it seems like the ROI is blah, blah, blah. What's going on here? Is this your experience with the, and I haven't responded yet because I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know if they're using a third. I mean, I know they're using a party. I don't know how much they're taking from that to manage it. I don't know. I mean, all I know is what the list agent told me is they use the property themselves for a certain amount of time, and that's why I just exactly told him what the list agent told me. That's all I had. I mean, I don't have any experience with investment property, and this guy's coming at the end of the month to look at specific investment property. And so I've just been sending him listings and then calling the list agent to get information about the listings. And then all I'm doing is forwarding the rental docs so he can do the math himself.
And that's basically what you should do, because everybody else's definition of, you know, ROI or anything like that is going to be specific to them. So you
Right.
don't need to be trying to plug your formula into their expectations or vice versa, right? You
Right.
give you can send them this. I'll share it with you guys. You can look at it and see what you think of it if I can find it. But again, this is a tool we know people have used. I'm not suggesting you use it or don't, but you can look at it and maybe you'll glean something from it if you don't already have a system in place. And yes, of course, I'm happy to get you the rental info or whatever like that. I mean, most people, if it's a vacation property, I'll just say, well, go on VRBO or HomeAway and look at similar properties in the area to get an idea what rental rates would be.
I mean, he's asking me like, does it have 2 meters? Does it have a long-term renter in there? So that's the stuff I'm asking the list agent and just getting
Right.
back to him. Yes, it has 2 meters. It has the long-term rental. This lease is up at this date. You know, yes,
The
they
same
use
thing
it.
you would be doing if they were going to buy the property and live there.
Exactly.
Okay, good discussion. Anybody have any other questions? Well, all right. Well, that is foreclosures, short sales, and a little bit of working with investors.